had no right. You should be glad they walk in the door. Where else they going to hear the salvation message? Outside? Be glad they walk in the door. I looked at them and I saw their face just change. They didn't even stay for the sermon. Brothers just walked. Learned later, one of them committed a crime. And for the rest of his life, or until they choose for his life to end. And I talked to him, convinced him. He got 2 more people to come. And somebody comes there and says, you can't come. This is how Jesus wants you to be. Jesus said, weep not for me. From time to time, Connie calls me on the phone. Yeah, a lot. But when we had 2 functioning cars, Connie. She would leave early, and even when we were in Michigan or now here, and she would see a police officer at such and such corner. And she would feel the need, I don't know why, to call me and tell me that this police officer is hiding in such and such place, and I need to be careful. And she knows that the speed limit and I are synonymous. We are one. Me and the speed limit. I try to go at least the speed limit all the time. Never accuse me of going under the speed limit. Cop tell me that, I'll laugh. I'm like, no, that's not me. So she tells me, she warns me about certain things. With David Jr., sometimes his mother, you're here, and I had this down to say, but amen anyway. Sometimes his mother may have had a bad day. And David may not realize that. And I know she's coming home in a certain frame of mind. And I say to David, I say, son, this is your father talking to you. It's like, yeah, Dad, what's up? Your mom has had a rough day now, David. So if I were you, you see how your bed is looking in there? I'd make that joke up, man. Okay, I'd clean the room. The cat, I'd empty the litter. I'd wash the cat even if you have to. I'd do whatever you got to do. Make sure the trash cans are empty. You may even want to put some rose petals down, son, but whatever you got to do, I would get my house in order before she gets here, and she's 15 minutes away. It's good when you have someone to give you a heads up. But isn't Jesus just that kind? He took their sympathy, yes, and he was patient, and he warned them about what was to come. Jesus is always looking out for us, always preparing you for what is to come. I want to be like Jesus. I want to prepare people for what's to come. But not everybody shares that. Not everybody. Not everybody that's Christian shares that. Why do we have to warn people? They know better. They were raised in the church. Let them go to hell. That's what they get. All that money I paid on tuition for them to go to Adventist school, and they acting a fool, let them go to hell. I don't care anymore. wasted my money like that. I'd have known they were going to be like that. They could have gone to public school. I could have had my new car. But Jesus isn't like that. Satan looked at this thing, the way this played out, and he was awestruck. He couldn't believe that in the midst of his pain, in the midst of his suffering, I said that when we get sick, we become more self-centered. But in the midst of his, quote, sickness, Jesus was still caring, still concerned, still loving. He didn't understand that. Because Satan wants to get within us the mentality, why bother? Why bother, Abundant Life? Why bother? Why you have your church? Forget them. Do your in-reach. Get your own stuff going strong. Why bother? You're not going to make a change in that town anyway. Why exhaust the energy? After all, little darling signs are up. Don't you see all the stuff when you look at the billboards that just flash and the women and dancing? Don't you see that? Why even bother? Viva Las Vegas. Why even bother? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas anyway. Why bother? Why warn them? Let them die. Let them be stuck in their sin. Give up on them. Concentrate on getting yourselves together. That evangelism stuff, yeah, that's cute. That's what they used to do back in the day. But there's no need. You can't change the city. Just the few of you. Let them die. The same thing that Satan has been saying forever. Adam sinned, Eve sinned, let them die. Enoch sinned, but look, why didn't you let him die? He just went for a walk and I couldn't find him anymore. Moses, I wanted to come get his body. You did let him die, but then look what you did. You came and got him too. Why don't you just let them die in their sins? Why be so sympathetic to them? That's what Satan is telling you. That's what he would have you do. He would have you be comfortable sitting in this pew, coming week after week, hearing good sermons, or watching them on the computer, or getting the recordings of them. He would have you come and have your nice Christian families, the fence and the dog, or cat in my case. He would have you think that all that you plunk down gives you salvation. And he has you comfortable in the don't go warn anybody else syndrome. Don't you know why you're here? Why do you think out of all the places you could live, God arranged for you to be in Las Vegas for such a time as this? All the cities, he could have put you in Boston. He could have put you in the city of champions, Philadelphia. But he put you here. Yes, with the city with the reputation, but he knew the kind of person he created you to be. And he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is something inside of you that can make a difference in this city. So now is the time. Now is the time to take Jesus' words literally. Don't just weep for me, But weep for yourselves and for your children. Weep for those that are out there that don't know what's going on. There's a story. There's a story about these people on a boat. And the boat springs a leak, the submarine. And there's only one way to keep everybody on the boat from perishing. And that's for someone to go down and stop the leak. But there was a chance if you went where the leak was, you would have to shut yourself up in that room. And there was a very strong possibility that whoever went down there wouldn't come back up. The captain on the boat was looking around, asking for volunteers. There was silence in heaven for the space of a second. No one said a word until this young man said, "I'll go." Captain looked at him, puzzled, and he said, "Okay, go ahead." The young man went down there, fixed the leak. Everybody's lives were saved, and they were waiting for him to come back up. The captain was waiting to see if he would come back up. The young man didn't come back up. He lost his life to save the lives of others. And the strange part of it is, he was the captain's son. And he gave the orders for his son to give his life for those that he was responsible for. I believe there's another captain that has a group of people on the old ship of Zion. And he knew that they were on a sinking ship. And there was only one way to stop the leak. Satan was there saying, let him die. The same lie that he says to us. Satan was there the whole while. But like C.C. Winans sings, mercy said no. Reading the words of that song, reading them, mercy said no. I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you slip away. You don't have to be afraid. Mercy said no. Sin will never take control. Life and death stood face to face. Darkness tried to steal my heart away. Thank you, Jesus. Mercy said no. The enemy would have you think it's over. He would have you think that God doesn't love you. He would have you think that you have gone too far to be saved. But we used to sing a song in the Bethany Seventh-day Adventist Church in Bridgeton, New Jersey, 08302, 32 South Burlington Avenue. We used to sing a song in my home church. And whenever I get to thinking that I'm not good enough, whenever I get to thinking that my sins, and oh, they were many and still are so grievous that he won't love me, I start singing this song. Goes like this. I really love the Lord. I really love the Lord. You don't know what He's done for me. He gave me the victory, and that's why I love Him. I love Him. I really love the Lord. I love the Lord. Because justice said that X, Y, Z should have happened to David. But mercy said no. Justice said that should have been me up on that cross. But mercy said no. Justice said that I'm not good enough for heaven. But mercy said no. I don't know about you this evening, but I'm so glad for mercy. I'm so glad for mercy. It says in Psalm 23, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Thank God tonight for mercy. Because mercy said to Jesus, if I could have somebody play something for me. Mercy said to Jesus, when his friends began to sleep on him, and the devil was there whispering, you ought to give up. Why are you going to be bothered with him? Mercy said no. When he was clinging to the cold, cold earth, nails like he was being dragged into something. And it says that he was perspiring sweat and blood. As he's pleading with his father, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me. But then mercy whispered to him. So he said these words, nevertheless. Nevertheless. I don't care about that. Thank you, mercy, for speaking to me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. The devil was whispering to him when they tied Jesus' hands together. And they're marching him from place to place, beating on him with a stick. The devil said, why are you going through all of this for them? Don't you know them Las Vegians? They not going to even care. As they yanked pieces of his beard and pulled them out. Your Jesus and my Jesus. The devil is saying, Jesus, why even bother? But mercy said no. As they drug him from one place to the other, they tied him to the pole. 40 lashes was what was considered what would kill you. They gave him 39. And as they beat your Jesus and my Jesus, they say the tip of the whip had little pieces of bone and metal. So when they hit him and pulled it back, the enemy was saying to him, they don't care. They don't even have worship in the morning. They're not going to even think about you. Why bother? But mercy said no. As they made fun of him. You ever had anybody make fun of you and there's nothing you can do about it? They laughed at him. After they beat him, they said, oh, you the king, right? Put the crown of thorns on his head. Oh, it's moving. Let me make sure this thing don't come down. Hand me a club. Boom, 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 boom. As the tips come precipitously close to his brain. And then they get a robe after they beat him. Put the robe on his back, begin to mock the king. And after they have enough of this, they yank the robe off. After the blood has dried, excruciating type pain, devil saying they don't care. They're not going to even tell anybody about you. Why are you going to go through this for them? Give up, Jesus. Go back to heaven. It's all good. But mercy said no. They gave him the cross to carry. Whether it was 70 or 170, it was heavy. And after having not eaten for a while, he collapses on the ground. And soldiers are there making fun, kicking and laughing and hissing and spitting on your Jesus. Brothers, those of you all that are married, let somebody hit your wife. You don't want anybody to hit something you are so concerned about. But they did it to Jesus. And sometimes we act as though, so what? And the enemy told them they're going to say, so what? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't get back up, Jesus. Don't get back up. But he had a conversation with mercy. And mercy said, no. They get him to the place. Those other two fellows, they're fighting this thing. But Jesus thought about you, Mr. Cameraman. And he placed this hand on the cross for you. He thought about you, Mr. President of the conference. And he placed this hand down for you. Dr. Rock, he crossed both legs because he knew if he didn't put the legs together, you would have no chance. And he laid there and wait. And Satan said, you're a fool for doing that. But mercy said, no. I want you to watch as they got those big nails. And they began to pound them in your Savior. And he utters not a sound, keeping with prophecy. And the devil is saying, give it up. You don't have to do this. You can still leave. But mercy said no. They tied the ropes on the cross because they got the big hole. They began pulling him and pulling him and pulling him. And just when the bottom gets to the hole, poof! And all his weight comes down on that spot. Crucifixion is death by suffocation. When you get tired, you stop breathing. In order to breathe on the cross, you have to push down and push up. Think about how many times you've breathed since you've been in here. Each time, in order to breathe, you push down and push up. Did I mention that his back was beaten? Did I mention that the cross had splinters all in it because it was not the smooth thing? So he's pushing down and pushing up, pushing down and pushing up, hour after hour, and the devil is saying, hey, get down. Mercy said no. Then there are people that are saying to him, if you really the Christ, if you are really the Christ, come down. Show me what you got. Brother like me would have come down off that joker. Poof! I'd have had the ground swallow one or two of them. Hop back up on there. How you like me now? I'd have said something to him. But mercy said, no, I got to stay up on this thing. I want you to see, and for the first time in the history of history, there's been a separation. I was just gone from her for 9 days. They were separate for the first time ever. See, I told you, even God the Father doesn't care about you. He left you here by yourself. I want you to watch as Jesus says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? But then somewhere in there, mercy began to say something. And he knew that none of you would make it. He knew what he had to do. And he said 3 words. Come on, David. He said 3 words that changed the world. All because mercy said no. Jesus said, it is finished. Into thy hands I commit my spirit. And because of the sins that you committed in the past, the sins that you're committing right now, and the sins that you will commit in the future, he had them all on there. He said, the punishment, everything, it's finished. All the lies that Satan would tell you, that there's no hope, that's finished. It's nailed to the cross with me. What you got, Satan? The game is over. While heaven knew that, earth didn't understand. So they had a little rest period. You understand. Had the little Friday night happening. Open up the Sabbath, sad. All day Sabbath, we sad. Saturday night, wasn't nothing going on. But early, I said early, Sunday morning, something happened up in heaven. God the Father said, hey, wait a minute. I've been separated. I've been separated from this boy. I've been separated from my son a little too long. I need somebody. I feel like preaching. I need somebody to go down there and get my son for me. He looked at one angel. Angel, how fast can you get there? I can get there in 2 seconds. That's too slow. How fast can you get there? I can get there in 1.9 seconds. Still too slow. And then he looked at his main man, and all he said was, huh, I'm already here, Jesus. Woo! He looked at that stone, that thing that was separating them. And just like Jesus will look at the stone that's separating you from him. That stone that makes you think that you aren't good enough. That stone that'll make you think that you can't come to Jesus. Looked at that stone, rolled it away, and said, Jesus, Son of the Most High God, thy Father calleth thee, and your Jesus, and my Jesus, got up, walked out of there, looked at the devil, nodded at him, looked at the demons, acknowledged their presence, looked at the Roman soldiers, Then he had something to tell them. I'm the resurrection and the life. I hold the keys to hell and death in the palm of my hands. Mercy said no. So on October 30th, 2009, I know something can happen in the abundant